Hey there, how you doing? I'm Matt Cowan and you're listening to the Bureau Asia podcast, the podcast that aims to bring you a little bit of everything from history and food to brews and news and everything in between, hopefully with a few laughs, and which may just be the best way to keep up with what's happening in Vietnam without even being in Vietnam. Or if you're here already, without even leaving your home, unless you have to say, go and plead with the power company to reconnect your electricity. Well, wherever you're listening in from, let me know where you are by commenting on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Substack, or wherever you listen to this. As always, I'm in Ho Chi Minh City, where just last week the Michelin Guide announced the recipients of their coveted stars and recommendations for Vietnam at what looked to be a pretty spiffy gala here in Ho Chi Minh City at the Intercontinental Hotel. I love a good gala. Didn't get an invite though, did you? Let me know if you did. By the time you're listening to this, the debate online about who should have got an award and who shouldn't have will have petered out, along with the usual attacks on the credibility of Michelin. All I'll say about that is Michelin brings a lot of it upon itself with its clandestine inspection process, much like the Asia's 50 Best Awards, but that's another story. And of course, with Michelin, there's always those lingering questions surrounding its transparency. Ooh la la. You know, if there were a star given out for the secrecy on the scale of, say, the Church of Scientology, then the Michelin Guide people would deserve 3. I think with Michelin, it's a case of any publicity is good publicity these days. Social media is about reach and engagement in whatever form it comes in. So, the show goes on. And hey, for what it's worth, a lot of establishments here in Vietnam will have gained some much needed local and international exposure. And that has to be a good thing, right? Now, speaking of exposure and establishments, a controversial blind dating cafe was fined 18 million Vietnam dong recently. That's a little over $700 after its mirror installation set social media alight here. No, it wasn't some epic piece of artwork. The one-way mirror installation meant that the men in the coffee shop participating in the blind dating event could see the women they were talking to, but the women couldn't see them. That's because the cafe had been divided in two by a large one-way floor-to-ceiling mirror, with the men seated on one side and the women seated on the other. So the cafe was, let's say, exposed when it was discovered that the women had been led to believe that both the men and women couldn't see each other during the event. This went viral here, which inevitably got the attention of the local authorities. But not only that, oh yeah, in a further twist to this creepy Japanese skebe aidoru-like saga, the men's seats were positioned considerably lower than the women's, allowing them to see under the table and presumably up there, of course without the women knowing. Definitely not a good reflection on Vietnamese society, hey. Although having said that, it was the online community that spoke up, condemning it, and called the cafe out for being the creeps that they are. So I think it would be fair to say that this isolated incident doesn't really mirror the rest of society. At the time the article was published, more fines for the owners of the cafe were expected to come their way, but it wasn't clear as to whether the cafe would be able to continue business. Let's hope not, as the owners should really take a good look at themselves. And finally, a Buddhist abbot has been hit with a 2-year preaching ban. No, not for being found at that cafe, but for delivering speeches at public events that were, I quote, deemed culturally contentious. The abbot from Barria Vung Tau, around 90 kilometres southeast of Ho Chi Minh City, has been found guilty of delivering speeches on karma that have, I quote again, caused social distress, eroded trust in Buddhism, and affected Sangha's reputation. In its simplest form, Sangha basically refers to the greater community of monks and nuns. Now, the monk in question, aged 65, used to be the deputy head of the Vietnam Buddhist Sangha's Economic and Financial Department. And in his speeches on karma, in front of thousands of people, he said, I quote, "Those who sing karaoke too much may become a mute ghost when they die. And people polluting the air would lie in one place when they get old, meaning they'll either have strokes or become paralysed." He also went on to say that fishermen are scammers, which I believe stems from Buddhism's position on animal welfare and the hunting and killing of sentient beings. Wow, I wonder what karma he thinks will befall the owners of the blind dating cafe. Anyway, so the abbot has a couple of years to think about what he said. Let me know what you think and let me know whether you believe in karma or not. You can do that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, YouTube and Insta at The Bureau Asia. Well, my thumbnail story this week is about South Korea in Vietnam. You may or may not know that South Korea, I'm going to call it Korea from now on, is Vietnam's largest investor, its second largest aid provider, and its third largest trading partner behind China and the US. As of 2023, Korea had invested approximately $86 billion into Vietnam since diplomatic relations began back in 1992. More than 9,000 Korean companies are operating here, and the number of Vietnamese citizens working in those companies is estimated to be in the vicinity of 900,000 people. And these companies are said to account for 30% of Vietnam's total exports. I don't know what those total exports are, but the numbers sound huge, don't they? It's also estimated that there are 170,000 Koreans living in Vietnam. Is that right? Wow, that's huge. In turn, as of 2023, 65,000 Vietnamese workers were reported to be living in Korea, while an additional 15,000 Vietnamese, up by 3,000 compared to last year, were selected to work in Korea this year to help meet labour demands in manufacturing, construction, agriculture and fisheries. Well-known Korean companies like Samsung, SK, LG, Lotte and Hyundai have invested heavily here. Samsung, for example, Vietnam's biggest foreign direct investor, has invested $18 billion so far and is reportedly planning to increase that investment to $20 billion. Vietnam has also become a popular tourist destination for Koreans, with almost 4 million Korean tourists visiting Vietnam in 2023, accounting for nearly 30% of all international arrivals, with Da Nang in central Vietnam proving to be the most popular destination, making Vietnam the second most popular destination in the world for Koreans. Now, a very popular neighbourhood in Saigon for Koreans to live is Phu My Hung, aka Koreatown, as it's fondly known by many. It's approximately 9 kilometres south of the centre of the city and covers 33 square kilometres, so as you can imagine, it covers quite an area. However, the neighbourhood known as Koreatown takes up just a small part of that. And as it happens, I live here. So I decided to step outside the other day to see if I could actually find some Koreans to chat to about life in Phu My Hung. And luckily enough for us, I found a couple of people who agreed to talk to me and answer some of my questions. The first person I spoke to was Cindy, a 46-year-old doctor with 3 children who's lived in Phu My Hung for 14 years. She was introduced to me by her Korean friend Lim, an acquaintance of mine who owns and operates a small bar not far from where I live, and where I sometimes go in the afternoons for a couple of quiet beers. Because Lim isn't confident in her English, she gave Cindy a call and she arrived soon after and was willing to be interviewed. Cindy came to Vietnam with her Taiwanese husband, who's also a doctor, when he took on a job here back in 2010. Do you like living in Phu My Hung?
Yes, I very like.
Why is that?
Because I like people, so I can make a lot of friends from many countries.
Right.
Yeah, so I can learn their culture and language, so I like.
Where are your friends mostly from? Are they mostly Vietnamese or mostly Korean or mostly other nationalities?
Yeah, many country.
Right.
I learn yoga, so I have Indian friend. Some of my patients from another country, Japan, or USA, Taiwan.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you know a lot of people.
Yes.
So you like...
Cindy clearly enjoys living in Vietnam, as you may have picked up in her voice. And being there in person talking to her, her positivity about the country and its people was obvious for me to see too. But like anywhere, living in Vietnam comes with its challenges, making it, well, quite a challenging country to live in.
But what are the challenges living in Vietnam for you as a Korean person?
You know, Korean people, because I don't know how to say, because if I say like this, some Vietnamese, they will be angry at me. Does that?
I think...
I have to say something not good for them.
But I think every nationality has something that's not good. So I think try to be honest.
Okay. Because sometimes I need to hire some employees, but I like them, and then I put a lot of my effort to them. But they sometimes they just care about money, and then they will leave us. But I still like them, but they don't want to contact with us anymore like that. And sometimes I got hurt.
Yeah.
You understand? Because I like people, so I did everything for them, but they just care about money. But you know, I can't give them a lot of salary, because I also get salary from my company. So I live in 14 years, but a lot of Vietnamese, yeah, let them go, and then I feel not good. I felt not good.
So are the people you're talking about, are they young Vietnamese? Like what age group? Like
Young.
20 to 25 or
Yeah,
something?
under 20.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So, you know, now I don't want to make some friend in Vietnam.
Oh.
You know, I miss them, but they don't like contact with me like
So
that.
it's because you spend a lot of time developing the friendship,
Yeah.
but then they go.
They just care money. I know they need the money, but she also like that. You know, she run business here. He have a lot of employee before, but some just money. They live here.
So they look for, while they're employed here or at your business,
Yeah.
they're always looking for something better in terms of money. What about?
No,
Sorry.
I think they just close with me. They wanna more. You understand?
They want to use you
Yeah.
for more money.
Yeah,
so they
I
get
think
friendly
like
with
that.
you, and then it's like, okay, can you?
Oh yeah, can you help me? And then I can help her a little, but they wanna more and more. So I can, and then they leave like this. Not everyone like that. Some of people in Vietnam like that. So I got hurt. Sometimes I don't wanna make more friends. Yeah. So
So do you have any friends who are like your
Okay, so that's her general feeling about Vietnam and Vietnamese people. But what about Koreans themselves? Being an OG here in Phu My Hung, I thought she would surely have an opinion of other Koreans who live here, including those fresh off the boat.
How do you feel about Koreans who are fresh, who are new in Vietnam? Do you see them sometimes making mistakes? Or?
Yeah, they always they fighting with the Vietnamese people. You understand? You know, in Korea we don't have some tip culture. So we never give employee tip.
Same in Australia.
Yeah, but here in Vietnam, they have a tip culture. So they every time fighting with them.
Right.
Why you, how to say?
Complain and argue.
Yeah. So I don't like.
Over a small amount of money.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some people look down them sometimes like that. So I don't like. You know, I drive here.
In a car?
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone stop their car middle of a road.
Yeah.
Almost is Korean
Oh.
because they are number one. You understand? They have to stop, pull over, how to say, next to the road.
Yep.
They stop
In the middle.
and calling.
Oh, so they're Korean.
So I hate.
Yeah.
So sometimes I can't see some problem Korean peoples.
Does that happen in Korea? Do people in Korea stop in the middle? They just do it here?
Yeah, they very nice in Korea, but
When they come here, they change.
yeah, some people like that.
That's interesting.
There's some people like that. So I am a Korean, but sometimes I don't like that. Don't like them.
So how long will you stay here?
Song is a 50-year-old small business owner from Seoul who's also lived in Vietnam for a long time, and he was the second Korean I spoke to for this episode. 16 years ago, he was working in the travel industry and his company sent him to Vietnam to help build the business. He stayed and now has a Vietnamese wife and a son and calls Phu My Hung home. For now, he has a similar opinion to Cindy about the Korean community here.
Yeah, I wrote like this. Korean, cheating Korean.
Oh, really?
For example, America. No, America also. It's very dangerous. People say, Australia also.
Yeah.
If we go to Australia, we afraid the Korean people say, don't meet the Korean. Or because your money suck. They suck your money. That's like this.
Really?
This is very, business very, yeah. Something, not
So the
something.
Korean community is not very close.
Across.
Yeah.
Cross, but take care. Sometimes take care. Some people good people. Some people very bad. Everywhere. But this is how can I say? This is not Korea, almost Korea, and a few Korean. But this is of course we have to something. Yeah, looks like how can I say micro something looks like this. Yeah, right. You understand?
Because it's a small community.
Small community.
While
so
Song
more
agrees with
big-
Cindy about the complicated nature of Koreans mixing with other Koreans here, and like Cindy, he too loves Vietnam and its people, he's less enthusiastic about the future of places like Phu My Hung as a home for Koreans like him, especially since COVID-19.
What percentage of your customers are Korean, do you think? Is it like 20% or 50%?
Now 15% only.
15% Korean?
Yeah.
So they're mostly Vietnamese?
We have many foreigner customers also, but very. If we wait 5 years before, Corona before, very good, right? Many Korean, many foreigner, many Vietnamese. now less, every less. So, yeah, so maybe a foreigner, maybe a 20%, Korean 50%, later with the Chinese, Taiwanese, Japanese, and Vietnamese. It looks like this.
So has it had a negative impact on your business? Has it been a negative impact on your business?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
This is very slow business now.
Right.
We are maybe sales maybe looks like cut. We cut.
Right.
Very small sales. So yeah, something wrong now.
So do you live in...
So would he recommend Koreans back home contemplating a move to Vietnam
Listen to this.
to do so?
Some rich people can.
Yeah.
Rich people can. Why? But the visa something wrong. So they cannot leave.
What about in terms of investing, like in business?
My friend is a big company, but he invests, but they don't give to visa clear. 1 year only, something like that. Yeah, registration hard, so no good now. So if we want more, you more invest. Oh, they invest a lot before. They are getting Corona, getting very slow. They cannot.
What about people who want to come to Vietnam for a holiday? What do you recommend to Korean people? Come to Ho Chi Minh City?
No, very hard now. And
just for a holiday?
holiday, no. I don't recommend because Vietnam something beautiful you see many, right? But actually, Australia more beautiful. Japan now very cheap. Turkey very good. Now not, but maybe before many Korean almost came here, and they enjoy something like that. Corona after everything broken, business also beautiful. Yeah, they are something argue together, something. Yeah, people each other can.
And what about Cindy? What tips does she have for Koreans thinking about a move here?
So what tips would you give them? What are 3 tips that you would give Korean people who are thinking about coming here?
First of all, you have to learn their culture and language. Because we cannot communicate, so we can misunderstanding. So have to learn their language and their culture. Especially Korean people, they thinking Korean culture, Korean food is best in the world. You know that? So not like that. So culture and language is important.
So
So there you have it, just a small insight into the lives of Koreans here in Saigon. I must admit, I understand very little about the experiences of Koreans here, so it was enlightening for me to hear what they had to say, albeit brief, but their experiences living here and their understanding of Vietnamese culture are similar to mine, it seems, even though I think it's fair to say that the Korean community is a tight bunch and by and large keeps to itself. At least that's the perspective I have. Now, we can't talk about Korea and not mention K-pop or Hallyu. I think that's it. I have no idea if I've pronounced that correctly. It's a word I've only just come across researching for this segment, so you can tell how much of a fan I am, or ignorant, I guess. But anyway, Hallyu, which is the Korean word for K-pop, and anything related to Korean pop culture is massive here in Vietnam. So much so that VN Express, a large media channel here in Vietnam, reported that Vietnam has the 3rd largest number of Hallyu fans in the world, behind China and Thailand. In 2022, it was reported there were an estimated 178 million K-pop fans around the world, and that 13.3 million of them were Vietnamese. But don't be caught out thinking this hullabaloo about Hallyu is just an Asian thing. Oh no, because Europe has become the fastest growing market. with 13 million fans last year, which is an increase of 37% from the previous year. Now, I don't know what constitutes as a Hallyu fan. I haven't deep dived into the report put out by the Korea Foundation. Perhaps you can do that over your next kimchi jjigae and report back to me. But the numbers suggest K-pop is massive, and quite frankly, you'd have to be living under a very large rock to not know that K-pop is massive in Vietnam. Korean dramas dubbed in Vietnamese are huge as well and attract massive audiences to the soapies set in modern cities like Seoul, the capital of Korea. In addition, whenever K-pop bands are mentioned in the Vietnamese news, the response is manic. It's even gone as far as the local news reporting on whenever a K-pop star or soap actor holidays in Vietnam, and they get into the nitty-gritty of what they ate and whether they liked it or not. Oh, and this probably doesn't really need to be said, but I'll say it anyway. Gossip about K-pop star relationships is gobbled up quicker than you can say samgyeopsal. And then there's the relationships that blossom between everyday Koreans and Vietnamese, which are historically more common between Korean men and Vietnamese women. In 2023, according to Statistics Korea, as reported in VN Express earlier this year, there were 20,000 marriages in total between South Korean citizens and foreigners, up 3,000 marriages from the year before. And Vietnamese women represented the largest group of foreign wives at 33.5%, followed by Chinese and Thai women. Meanwhile, a South China Morning Post feature back in 2019 revealed how these wives were mostly obtained, and that was that they were found online, often through agencies, and that once married and relocated to Korea, real life for many of them becomes nothing like the K-dramas that romanticise blissful married life in Korea. Indeed, foreign wives in Korea report that they are often hoodwinked into believing their husbands, before marriage that is, are well-educated, urban, young, or youngish at least, and earn high incomes and live lavish lifestyles, but who are just simply a little unlucky in love. And then they often go on to discover, usually when it's too late, that their knight in shining white armour, their Don Juan of the East, is actually a grumpy old farmer from the provinces who still lives with his parents. And he's not the Kim to their Chi, let's say, if you know what I mean. Ouch. Nothing against farmers though. I'm the product of one, obviously not a Korean one, but a farmer nevertheless. And I think I turned out pretty okay, for the most part at least. But hey, I'd be pretty pissed too if I was sold a durian and received an old discarded corn cob. Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to add a little bit of Vietnamese humour into this piece. An eaten corn cob in Vietnam is said to be useless. So the Vietnamese use the word goi bap to refer to someone who's useless. It's very funny if you know the context. Anyway, back to the story. The ladies' nightmares don't stop there, with reports of wives not being allowed to go out and socialise, not have their own spending money, nor the other freedoms you'd expect in a loving marriage, even though they work hard around the house, caring for the husband, and in many cases, extended families, only to quickly wind up in scenarios in which they suffer physical, emotional and sexual abuse and are sometimes murdered. Now, I'm not saying this is always the case. There are many marriages that work, of course. I don't have those numbers handy, and I'm sure there are many, many happy marriages between Vietnamese ladies and Korean men, but it's hard to ignore the data of these abuses, easily accessible in the public domain. But as always, like a fried rice cake sizzling on the griddle at a Korean restaurant, every story has two sides and is equally as tasty. It's been well documented over the years that Vietnamese brides will use Korean men for the sole purpose of gaining a visa to Korea in order to escape whatever it is, often poverty, that they're fleeing here in Vietnam, only to disappear pretty much before the hot plates at the wedding reception have had time to cool down, which has led me to an interesting discovery about deserting foreign brides in Korea. I found out that back in 2019, just 5 years ago, Korea did away with its policy of deporting foreign brides if they got divorced. I don't know the details of that policy and whether there are any conditions that made foreign divorcees exempt, like children, years in the country, employment, reason for divorce and so on. But yeah, foreign brides had to leave if they got divorced up until 2019. Of course, presumably if they didn't have citizenship. I don't know how difficult it was to get citizenship in Korea. Anyway, since that policy has ended, there's been an uptick in the divorce rate among multicultural couples in Korea, totalling 6,000 cases last year in 2023, which has also been linked to an uptick in marriages. This has come about as the ladies who previously would have had to return to Vietnam upon divorce are now allowed to stay behind in Korea to get remarried. And that's what's contributing to that increase in the number of marriages between Vietnamese women and Korean men, and presumably women of other nationalities. Now, just one more interesting stat before we move on is that marriages between Vietnamese men and South Korean women are up as well. While numbers are significantly smaller than marriage between Vietnamese women and Korean men, they're definitely rising. In 2022, there were almost 800 marriages between Korean women and Vietnamese men. However, it's important to note that 556 of those were remarriages, and 482 of those, that's 87%, the women were originally from Vietnam but had become South Korean citizens, which is presumably a direct result of that 2019 change in deportation law. I smell a bit of a racket going on there, don't you? Let's call it K-Town, hey? K-Town. It's popular, obviously, for its Korean restaurants, bars, cafes and bakeries. And I think it's fair to say home to the best Korean food in Saigon and maybe all of Vietnam. So if you've got a hankering for some of that, this area might be your best bet to satisfy those cravings. In fact, I threw up a poll on the Bureau Asia Facebook group this week, along with an Instagram story asking you guys to help me out with suggesting the best Korean restaurants in District 7. Now, even though I live in District 7, I don't eat a lot of Korean food at all. I have very little experience with it. So I thought I'd ask Bureau followers. And here's what you guys said on Facebook. Meat and meat. So MEAT and MEET. So meat and meat, suggested by Chad, got the most votes with 26%. I noticed meat and meat. I think there's one over there at the Crescent Mall. The next one, Matchandeul, I think it is, came in next with 21% of the vote, followed by Perilla, recommended by Pat, with 14%. Then Plan K and Ilmirak, I think it is, also recommended by Pat, with 7% of the vote. Then a whole slew on 6%, recommended by Tim. So thanks heaps for that, guys. Now, on Instagram, I received a few recommendations. Frake also recommended Matchandeul. JB also suggested Ilmirak, I think it's called, for samgyeopsal. I don't really know what that is, but I trust you, JB. And she said it depends on the dish. The location or your restaurant selection should depend on the dish. I'll get to that in a moment, how recommendations depend on the dish. Now, Mel recommends SoFung and Charles recommends Jamnam Korean Century for, I quote, a widespread and really good galbi. Galbi is Korean for ribs. I found that out as well. So that's how little I knew about Korean cuisine. And Charles also recommends Myeong Wang for good soups, especially galbi tang, I think it is. Sorry, Charles, I have no idea what galbi tang is, but I know you're a discerning eater, so I trust you. Thanks, guys, for taking the time to respond to my call out. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this was an enlightening activity for me, as I had no idea that different Korean restaurants are known for different dishes. I guess that makes sense now that I think of it. Here I was thinking that the restaurants around Myeong serve up a bit of everything, so how wrong I was, as pointed out by Tim on Facebook. he must have had a bit of a chuckle at me when he asked, what type of foods? And I replied with, whatever's regarded as Korean. And then basically he went on to school me in the basics of Korean cuisine and introducing me to things like gopchang, samgai, gangjang. I think that's an 80s Australian rock band. It sounds a lot like Gangajang. I'm still not sure if he was setting me up and that he knew I was going to attempt to read these out on my next podcast. There's also Guk Tang or something here, which, he really showed me up. He showed that I knew absolutely nothing about Korean food. I had heard of galbi. Turns out I've been eating it, whenever I eat it, whenever I go to a Korean restaurant. I didn't know what it was, especially a couple of days ago. But, if you'd asked me a couple of days ago what Korean food was, I would have just said, I don't know, kimchi, spicy and plenty of beef. Anyway, thanks for that, Tim. Okay, that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on the episode and the podcast in general. And don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and now on YouTube, of course. You can just comment, like, and share like you usually would on a video. It really helps a lot and costs nothing but a little of your time. Be sure to add the places I recommended in this episode to your list. And don't forget to sign up to my new Substack. I've left a link in the show notes. I'm a bit peckish, so I think I might step out and have some Korean barbecue nearby. Until the next episode, take care and stay safe and eat well. This has been Matt Cowan. 감사합니다.